Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Civivi Odd 22. I do not know why they call it that. I looked around briefly trying to get some context and I couldn't, there was none. So if you know, then let everybody know down in the comment section. I have absolutely no idea. I'm going to link this knife right down below. The time that you are watching this video, it should be available. So if you want to use my links, I would greatly appreciate it, as it does help the channel, but that is entirely up to you. Thank you so much to Civivi for sending this in for me to take a look at. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. Overall length is coming in at about, it's a little more. It's like 7 1/16. No, it's 7 1/8. Blade length is coming in at 3 inches. Cutting edge, also 3 inches. How about some size comparisons? Just a couple today. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. This knife is very similar in overall length to the Rat 2. It just has a little more presence. It's taller. There's more knife, it seems like. How about up against the Demco 80 20.5? A little smaller than the 20.5. How about up against the Spyderco Para 3? Somewhat similar to the size of the Para 3. And then finally, the Benchmade Bug Outs. All right. How's the action? It is extremely similar to other Civivi knives that I have handled. The flipping action is fine. The thumb stud deployment is fine. In fact, you can also pretty easily reverse flick it. The one thing that bothers me a little bit is that there's not enough of a cutout here. The front scale and liner should have been cut a little lower for easier access to that liner. You're kind of having to mush in there, which is irritating. It's irritating. Oh, my thumb it's irritated. You'll get over it. It's just like versus knives that have a better, setup here. This is just kind of annoying. Not that big of a deal. It's going to be more of a problem like if you're wearing gloves and you're trying to disengage it, you're going to do this over and over and over again. But I wouldn't call that a deal breaker. This is a pretty inexpensive knife. We're going to talk about that. But yeah, it is what it is. Outside of that, the action is fine. Carry profile length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. You can see here, this guy is really not going to take up much more room in the pocket than the Para 3. In fact, less overall. Even including the flipper tab, it's still not quite as tall as the Para 3. Overall length closed is very similar to the Para 3. Definitely shorter than the PM2. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. This particular one is G10 with steel liners and a 14C28N blade, which I'm sure they have printed very small somewhere. Yeah, it's like right there. It's been like micro etched into I do appreciate Civivi doing that, because we for so long we were like, stop printing it so big on the blade. Like, okay, geez, like the knife is screaming the blade steel at us. And Civivi was like, all right. So it's kind of like when IBM made the IBM with like atoms. They went so small. But yeah, it's 14C28N, which is fantastic. That is, if you don't know, one of the very best steels that you can get in this price territory. The internals, the liners, are milled out for weight reduction. Can you see in there? Yeah. Let's go ahead and weigh it. Weight on this knife is 3.67 ounces. So ratios aren't exactly perfect, but I'm not going to complain about it there. The balance on this knife is right there where you're going to put your index finger while you're using it, so the knife does not feel heavy in any way, shape, or form. Let's go ahead and get out my tools for a hardware check. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. Let's go ahead and check the pivot here. That's going to be a T8. And in typical Civivi fashion, also the body screws are T8, and there's only 2 of them on this side, one here, and then one of the pocket clip screws is also mounted into that standoff and liner. So minimal hardware. The pocket clip screws are T6, by the way, but that's not that big of a deal. Minimal hardware and T8 across the board except for the pocket clip. That's great in my book. So no complaints there. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness. This is probably 110, 105 to 110. Nope, it's 115 thousandths. So pretty typical for Civivi. All right, meat and potatoes time. This is a slight departure from other knives that Civivi has put out. And what I mean by that is this knife has curves to it. Civivi really likes, all of Civivi's knives to me look like lowercase L's. They're very straight and there's just not a lot of deviation. But this actually has curves to it. We have you might call this a clip point. You might call this, it's not really a Persian style blade because there's no dip, right? But it's kind of like a drop clip, like a modified clip point, drop points. I don't know, right? Here come the blade shape police rushing in, just absolute, just saliva dripping from their mouths or sprinting in to correct me. Stop. I don't care. Here's what the blade shape is. You can see it, right? G10 scales here, right? So typical materials, 14T28N for the blade and G10 for the scales. You can also get my card. There's a couple of different versions. All of them will be included in that link down there. But this has curvature to it. So it is a little bit different for Civivi. As far as the rest of the knife world, it is a knife, right? Because lots and lots and lots of companies have done this similarly for the last 20 years, right? Ergonomics, they're okay, right? There's not an abrupt angle on the G10. It's actually fairly nicely knocked down, but you can feel that. It's a kind of a shorter, you can just barely get a full 4-finger grip on this guy if you want to. It's honestly a little bit more comfortable if you use 3 fingers. The pocket clip you can feel because they insist on the bill here, which I hate, and you guys know that. We'll talk about that more here in a sec. But yeah, it's fine. Jimping up here, nice little thumb ramp. So truthfully, it's all right. Ergonomics, I'd give it a B-. Nothing wrong, right? You can get a grip on it. You can hold it. You're not likely to drop it. It feels like it was, relatively, closely made for the human hand. And everything looks pretty good, right? Kind of an hourglass shape here on the handle. The blade is silver bead blast, which I gotta say I do like. I think that looks nice. I do like that they have opted for larger, more domed off thumb studs instead of little tiny pointy things. Companies designing knives, we do not like pointy pyramid style or spire. Most of the time it's not even pyramid. It's like a church spire. Why would we want to drive our thumb into that, right? These are great. The one that I always use as the example of the best thumb stud design is the thumb stud for the Ontario Rad. That's perfect, right? This is very similar. It has that domed off cap. It's really nice. And they do not stick out past the hand. Honestly, if you look close here, they've got a little bit of extra milling in there just for some zazz, right? The blade has a flat that carries out maybe 50-60% the length of the blade. Nice wedge here, drops down to a pretty darn thin edge as Civivi blades normally do. And as per usual, it has been wonderfully sharpened. If it's one thing Civivi does really well from the factory, it's sharpen their knives, which you'd think is something that every knife company would be good at, but they're not. In fact, I would say the average knife company still struggles a little bit with a factory edge. Civivi does a darn good job. Now you're still going to have people saying, that their master skills allow them to put a mirror edge, like a hair splitting edge on the knife after the fact, right? Okay. As far as what factory edges need to be, this is still definitely better than what we normally get. Absolutely. It will slice paper efficiently. I should have used the one. I'm running out of printer paper. It will slice paper efficiently, no problem, and it will do it without leaving sheared edges, right? That one actually jumped. It's absolutely a blade. Sorry, I caught some ledge there. But it's absolutely a knife that will make short work of, obviously, something like paper, but really anything that you push the blade through. It's not a thick stock or anything like that. Nice tip for puncturing. It'll definitely do that well. There's really nothing to complain about here. Here's the designer's logo. Again, I feel like I should know who that is, and I'm for some reason blanking. It's hard I looked at my unboxing playlist, just my unboxing playlist the other day. I have unboxed almost 1,000 knives on this channel. I have reviewed and handled a lot of knives, so you'll have to forgive me if sometimes I forget the logos of designers. It's just, there's a lot of really crazy knife information bouncing around in my head, and it's hard to remember it all. Let's see here. There is a lanyard hole. Great. Oh no, that's not a lanyard hole. I'm sorry. No, I'm stupid. There's a lanyard bar right here. This hole is just the other screw hole if you want to mount the pocket clip for left-handed carry. This is great. It's like I always point out, because nobody really cares about lanyards anymore, but the people who do can still attach a lanyard to it without forcing the rest of us to have to look at a big dumb hole in the knife that the pocket clip has to be moved out of the way for, right? Civivi does a good job of that. It's good. The pocket clip, I like that these newer Civivi clips do not have the holes in them. That's more of a preference thing. Still, though, we still have the goose bill thing, and the reason that this sucks is because it comes up, like way up and then over, making it a very grabby clip. I am certain that Civivi owners down in the description can tell you how many times their clips have been bent out by walking by things that are just slightly protruding as they do, and the Civivi clip seems to reach for miles to grab a ledge and bend itself out. It is infinitely annoying. I much prefer a clip like this where it comes down and there is a slight swoop with no bill, because it is much harder for a clip like this to grab onto something. Not this. This might as well be a grappling hook hanging off of your knife. It sounds like I'm getting more aggressive about this, but there's nothing more frustrating than feeling, well, there are plenty of things more frustrating, but it's very frustrating to feel your clip getting bent out, because you're like, well, great. It's steel, so that, it has like 1 or 2 bends in it before it breaks. It's not titanium, so it's not very forgiving, so it's just kind of annoying. In and out of the pocket, it's fine. Carry depth is fine, right? The clip will do its job as long as it's not being bent out. There is a stop pin located in its traditional position, and there's plenty of shouldering, very deep shouldering there. It sinks nicely underneath the tang. Runs on bearings, no blade play, up, down, left, or right. No double clutch, no pivot lash, consistent action, nice clicky detent, and perfect centering with no detent lash either. The best thing about this knife is that the base price of it is $60. When I unboxed it, I made a note, saying I didn't know, I have no idea what the price is, but I'm guessing that Civivi's goal here is to offer a knife with, Civivi level quality, which is very, very good, right? They offer some of the best quality that you can get in this budget territory. But the idea here was likely to create something that didn't have a lot of extra on it so that they could keep the price down. And I think they did that relatively. The base price of this knife is $59.95, so $60 with G10 and 14C28N. A little bit more for micarta and some of the other crap that they have. I don't know why I said crap, right? The other stuff that they offer, it's all fine, right? I think you might even be able to get a Damascus version of this if you want. I was really hoping to see this thing come in at like $50. The price is good for Civivi. There's still a lot of competition out there there's lots of companies utilizing 14C28N, and they are getting it at $50. They're coming a little less with similar quality, but this is still okay. The ergonomic lines are not my favorite. They're not bad, but they're not amazing, right? The profile is no reinvention of the wheel, right? It is straightforward, a good knife with a good price, right? There's nothing great about this. There's also nothing bad about this. It's just good, right? If you're somebody who's new to the knife world and you're like, I just want like a good pocket knife and I don't really know what direction I'm going, I kind of think that one looks cool. Should I pick it up? Yeah, I think you'll like it, right? But it's not spectacular enough to get me to say, like, you should absolutely rush out and buy this right now. So, this is not going to go on my most recommended knives playlist. Those are, knives that I'm like, yeah, definitely go after those, right? But this is going to go on my cheap knives I like playlist because it is a budget knife by my standard. That's any knife under $75. And I do like it. I think it's fine. I think if you pick this knife up, you will enjoy it and it will serve you well. That's really all I have to say about it. Thanks again to Civivi for sending this in for me to take a look at. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.